While basketball is obviously a team sport and every title is won through a team effort, some superstars had a much tougher job than others and exceeded their own expectations. In this video, we're gonna talk about those players and those teams. Players who transcended to the next level, playing at the top echelon of skill and talent, carrying their teams in the playoffs and ultimately the championship. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today, here are 7 of the biggest carry jobs in NBA history. Alright, let's get started. Number 7. 2000 Shaq. While this era was known for being both the Shaq and Kobe era, in the 2000 playoffs, it was almost exclusively Shaq. At this stage, Kobe was a star, but Shaq was without question the best player in the NBA. The most dominant version of him we've ever seen. In the regular season, he registered the highest scoring average of his career, leading the entire league with nearly 30 points per game. In the playoffs, he turned it up another notch. In the finals, he turned it up even further. In arguably the most dominant finals performance of all time, Shaq averaged 38 points and 17 rebounds on 61% from the field. He did all of this while the rest of his team struggled immensely, especially Kobe, who had the worst final series of his career. To put this into perspective, Shaq averaged more points per game than the next 3 Lakers combined. That's freaking crazy. It was solely because of Shaq that the Lakers captured their first title since the Magic Johnson era. Number 6. 2019 Kawhi. I know, the Raptors were a phenomenal team from top to bottom. They've proven that they can win in the regular season without Kawhi, cause after he left, they were still a top-tier team. However, we can't deny that Kawhi's 2019 playoff run was absolutely insane. His box plus minus was at plus 10.1, ridiculous. He averaged over 30 points per game throughout the entire playoff run. He took the highest volume of shots on the team, but also had the highest efficiency, plus plenty of memorable moments, a crazy game-winning shot, and brought the Raptors their first championship in franchise history. It's a bit hard to say that Kawhi carried them since he did sit out over 20 games of the regular season, with that whole load management thing, but in the playoffs, that rest was worth it, and he dominated. The Raptors were a great team regardless, but he was the true superstar they needed to push them over the top. DeMar was not cutting it. If he was there instead of Kawhi, they'd probably lose to Philly in the second round. Number 5. 1993 Michael Jordan. There's a lot of years that I could have chosen for MJ, however, I believe in 1993 this was absolutely his best run ever. Because not only did he have his best finals, but also because the rest of his team was sorely lacking, at least compared to other years. In 19 playoff games, Jordan scored at least 40 points in 6 of them. 2 of those times, he scored over 50 points. In the finals against the Suns, he scored 55 points in Game 4. That 55 points was the second highest mark out of any other finals game in history, only behind Elgin Baylor's 61. The Chicago Bulls and the Phoenix Suns were on a collision course. All the talk was about Air Jordan versus the round mound of rebound. This was a heavily anticipated matchup, and everyone believed it would be super close. Charles Barkley was named the NBA's most valuable player, while the Bulls saw their struggles throughout the regular season. They won 57 games, which was good, but it was the lowest number of that Bulls era. Whispers and rumors were all over the news. Can the Bulls really do it again? It was Barkley's time to shine. Unfortunately for him, Jordan heard all that noise and it got him fired up even more. By the time the series started, it was quite obvious Jordan was still, by far, the best player in the league. In the documentary The Last Dance, Jordan talked about going against Dan Marley, the supposed best defender on the Suns, who took on the task of guarding him. I knew that Jerry Krause loved Dan Marley, and just because Krause liked him was enough for me. You think he's a great defensive player? Okay, fine. I'm going to show you that he's not. Jordan finished the series averaging 41 points per game, the highest mark out of any other individual player in the finals. It's a record that still stands today, and I doubt it'll ever be broken. Number 4, 2006 Dwayne Wade. While the 2006 Miami Heat was known for also having Shaq, he was out of his prime and struggled with injuries during the season. In the playoffs, D. Wade carried the team on his back. This was even more prominent in the finals. Against the Mavericks, this was a series that garnered a ton of flack and critics over the years. Mark Cuban, the Mavs players, the fans, they hated how Wade was getting all the calls for seemingly soft fouls. In Game 5, it was pretty brutal, and Wade took 25 free throws, the same number as the entire Mavs team combined. It was one of the series that was in the center of discussion during the 2007 NBA referee scandal. There might have been something going on here. With that being said, I don't want to take away from Wade's performance. He was clearly the most dominant player on the floor and obliterated a team that lacked any physical perimeter presence. Wade was a matchup nightmare. He was cutting to the rim, driving into the paint easily, and scoring at will. Nobody, and I mean nobody, could stop him. The rest of his team, though, basically disappeared, including Shaq, so everything was on the shoulders of a 24-year-old Wade. Of course, he delivered. Number 3, 2003 Tim Duncan. When you think of the San Antonio Spurs, you think of a total team effort. A beautiful oiled machine that relentlessly destroys teams with ball movement, passing, shooting, and sheer perfection. But in 2003, it wasn't like that. Their style of play was quite ugly, like most other teams during that era. They played a very ISO-heavy game, and their entire offense was built around their superstar, Tim Duncan. This was when David Robinson was in his final season, and no longer the same star he once was. It was also before Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili became stars. So Duncan was all alone. Yet, as always, he delivered. It was the most apparent in the finals, where he averaged 24 points and 17 rebounds. In the series-clinching Game 6, he nearly recorded a quadruple-double. Some would say he actually did get a quadruple-double, but the scorekeepers accidentally missed 2 of his blocks. This whole season was very special for him because everyone knew this was David Robinson's last year. Over the last few years, they've been losing to the Lakers, and he was sick of it. He wanted to win this one for David. After claiming the title, Robinson spoke highly of Duncan, stating, "We just always expect a great game from him, and he just delivered time and time again. He carried us through almost every time. We just had to provide the help for him." Number 2, 2011 Dirk Nowitzki. We're all aware of this incredible run. Before 2011, Dirk was not seen in the same light we see him as today. He was known as somebody who couldn't put it all together, someone who struggled in the spotlight and choked under pressure when it mattered the most. That was his reputation after losing in 2006, and it stuck with him for a long time. Fortunately, everything changed. Throughout the 2010-11 season, we've heard speculation of which teams were considered contenders and which were not. We heard about the Lakers, hoping to three-peat again. We heard about the Heat, who just formed their infamous Big Three. We heard about other teams like the Celtics. But when it came to the Mavs, it was like, well, they're a solid team, but they'll probably underachieve in the playoffs as usual. The critics were plenty. That's why when Dirk carried them through the playoffs, it was so special for him to win the title, especially because the Heat were despised during that time. Dirk's championship was probably the most satisfying championship in history. It's worth mentioning that he was the only All-Star on the team that year. While he did have teammates who were all-stars in the past, in the 2010-11 season, Dirk was the only one on his team. And finally, at number 1, 1995 Hakeem Olajuwon. While 1994 and 1995 Hakeem were both incredible, his 1995 playoff run has an argument to be the greatest run by a single player. Coming into the postseason as the 6th seed, the Rockets had consistency issues throughout the year. A mid-season trade to acquire Drexler was seen as a good move, but a desperate move, to try and give the team a spark. Some teammates, like Vernon Maxwell, did not like Drexler taking his minutes away either, to the point where he left the team completely. The drama was all over the headlines. For a team that was the defending champs, they looked like a hot mess. Regardless, as usual, Hakeem ignored all the noise and took it into his own hands. In 22 playoff games, he averaged 33 points, over 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks a game. More importantly, just look at his competition. In the process, he annihilated David Robinson, the MVP. He outplayed Shaq, the young superstar trying to take his throne. He outplayed Charles Barkley and Karl Malone. Every team the Rockets defeated won at least 57 games in the regular season. So objectively speaking, this was the toughest championship run in history. It was the biggest carry job by any player ever. And that's all, folks. Those were 7 of the biggest carry jobs in NBA history. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on other players who carried their teams to the title. Who did I miss? Who do you think deserves to be on this list? Let me know in the comments. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.